cats.
Yes.
I was very intrigued with what they perceive and what they see.
They can peer into other dimensions. They will often see things that are invisible to you. And by learning to communicate with them, by learning to vibrate on their level, you can perhaps also be guided by cats to see those things too, to peer into other dimensions.
Could you talk about what they do when they purr?
Well, it can be for a number of different reasons. As many of you know, it can be from a satisfactory or content space. It can also be communication in a variety of levels. Sometimes it can also be that they might be attempting to repair themselves from an illness or an injury, that they may use it to vibrate themselves back into the proper state. It also has the effect on humans of many different things, such as reducing your heart rate, reducing your blood pressure. You understand?
Yes.
So it is primarily the idea of putting one in a state by matching that frequency that will be a beneficial state. Bringing one back, shall we say, to zero or square one, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So they are good little reset buttons.
Okay.
Yes?
Are there any forms of higher selves of cats? What do they look like? The, let's say, oversouls of cats, do they have any form?
You must repeat that.
The
It is not translating.
the higher selves of cats.
They can take other forms.
Is there any civilization that represents them specifically?
There are some that will relate very strongly to certain higher forms that you experience as cats that are not necessarily experienced exactly in the same way that you experience cats on your planet, because they are a different form, but may contain or represent similar energy. There are different civilizations that may relate to those beings in a variety of ways, yes, but the point is that you don't actually know those civilizations.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, it does.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good day to you, Bashar.
And good day.
We've heard several questions tonight about cats. And a friend of mine once postulated that there was a universe that existed at the same time and within the same space as this universe.
All universes exist, in a sense, here and now.
I understand, but he said that only cats and babies could see these universes.
For the most part, they are very receptive to other dimensions of reality. It is not impossible for others to see this, and other life forms on your planet do perceive them in a variety of ways. But the cat is the general symbol on your planet of that consciousness that is, in a sense, innately capable of looking through dimensional doorways, as, of course, are children, since they have not yet learned how not to.
You've said that cats communicate with elementals.
Very often, yes.
When do cats learn to speak to elementals? Is it instinctive from birth? Are there telltale signs when the cat is doing that? And what is the conversation usually about?
It is instinctive from birth. You can usually tell, though not always, when they focus on something that you say isn't there, that you can't see, but they seem very attentive in a particular direction. Now, that's not always the case. They might be looking at something you just can't see with your own eyes. That is still in physical reality, because they have very sharp senses. But again, it can look similar. They can be engaged with something that you can't see, and you can tell they're engaged with something by their focus, their head motions, and body language, and so on and so forth. Very often, though not always the case, what it's about is something that either has to do with the cat and its relationship to you, or it has to do with things that the cat can experience when it's out of body, and the cat's life in general or specific terms. But a lot of it will usually have to do with things that are going on in the life of the human and the cat and the relationship between them, and how that might progress and evolve to including the elemental in some way, shape, or form that can be of assistance to the lives of the humans and the cats, and other animals participate in this as well. It's not just cats. But they do have a strong proclivity for this kind of activity.
When you are learning to communicate with a dog, with a cat, with a bird, you are actually taking on the resonance, fine-tuning to that resonance, and reflecting it back in a way that actually starts a back and forth kind of energy beat. And in that energy beat, as it levels itself into that particular frequency, you then start to perceive communication in the form in which it is expressed from that animal, because you are expressing that aspect within yourself, because you contain all those frequencies that are representative of all the animals and all the trees and all the rocks and the sky and the sea and everything on your planet. So it's about becoming a very fine-tuned station, a very fine-tuned antenna, receiver, and transmitter, so that you can really start to perceive those different frequencies in a very fine-grained way and really lock into them much more strongly, so that you can amplify that vibration between yourself and the life form you are communicating with, and then start to really interpret and transceive the communication in the modality that it is expressing itself from, because you become like them. This is the secret of the shamans, in the sense of actually being able to tap into parallel realities in such a way that they actually represent themselves as the animal they are in communication with. This is the source of the idea of seeing shamans turn into birds, turn into jaguars, turn into various animals. It's not in a sense that any molecular rearrangement has happened. What is happening is that, like the sages that Willa has spoken of, they have the ability to understand their connection to parallel versions of themselves in parallel realities so strongly that they can actually represent themselves and bring in a representation from a parallel reality strongly enough that you actually perceive that parallel reality representation instead of the human form.
I lost my soulmate cat, and I understand the teachings from Bashar, and that we need to change our beliefs about loss. But how do we overcome the pain of the physical sensations we no longer have with that physical being? I miss my morning and night greetings and snuggles with her. I miss everything about her, and I feel broken and devastated.
All right, well, again, the cat is still connected to you in many ways. You have to reach out into spirit, to the spirit version of the cat, in order to maintain the connection and feel the connection. But at the same time, we understand what you are going through. Even though it may be on average anywhere from 80 to 100 years before humans reincarnate, of course there are exceptions based on need and choice, but animals will often reincarnate much more quickly. And therefore, just reaching out with love to the animal may allow another animal that could be considered similar energetically, or in your perspective, a reincarnation of your cat, to come back to you. So allow yourself to feel the love connection that would then act as a draw magnetically to what would be perceived as a different cat that would contain much of the same soul energy vibration that could come to you physically. Be open that door, don't close the door. Open the door and let a new cat in that would be a continuation of the vibrational energy and would be sent by the spirit of the cat that you are familiar with.
Is that common for animal souls to come back to the same owner several times?
It's not uncommon, yes.
And the pet is like still alive and it's telling them, I'm fine, you know?
Yes.
That can be very reassuring, especially if you lose a loved pet. How can you generate an experience like that? Or can you communicate with your pet and ask them, please come in my dream and tell me how you are, or something
Yes,
like
you
that?
can. But again, the idea is to communicate through imagery, because that's more representative of a telepathic bond. Just see them doing it. Just see yourself interacting with them in your imagination, in your mind's eye. Visualize the idea of the interaction. Put it out there with feeling. Feel what that would be like to have that interaction that you picture. So use pictures and feelings. That's the strongest way to communicate with them. And sometimes when you have those dreams, even though your pet may still be alive, the idea is that your animal is also telling you that they exist like you do in spirit, and that physical reality is simply a part of them and a temporary thing, but that your natural state is spirit. You never really leave it, and neither do they.
Can I ask you about my cat? And like, do we have connections in our past lives? Because I feel like...
Well, you know past lives is an illusion.
I mean, not in
but
other dimensions.
But I understand what you mean.
In other dimensions.
You do. Most of you have connections with animals in other dimensions.
She's very evolved. I feel like she's more evolved than...
All the animals are more evolved than you all are.
Well, no, I'm saying more evolved than other animals.
More evolved than human.
Well, I know.
The idea, in many ways, is that's because they're specialists, not generalists.
Oh.
So they exhibit all of their intelligence in a specific focus. All they need to be is a cat. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And therefore all their intelligence goes into being a cat. So they don't have to always think the way you do, know the things you know, because you're a generalist as a human. That's your definition. They exhibit a very high degree of intelligence. All animals do, because all they have to be is what they are. And they are specialized in that way as reflectors for you. That doesn't mean they don't have their own understanding of their own lives and their own purposes and their own choices. But what they are is highly focused. And therefore they exhibit all of their intelligence in that expression. And they don't need to generalize it. Although some animals are learning to generalize as a reflection for you, because some generalization, as in with some cats and dogs and dolphins and whales, will lure you into more of yourself as well. So they perform that function too, by being generalized when they need to be, but that's just an aspect of their specialized focus. So, the adventures that you may have with your cat, which of course isn't always a cat in other dimensions, as you understand it, do happen. You go on many adventures with your animals in other dimensions, and they take on many other forms in other dimensions that may not even really be what you would recognize as an animal.
And do animals have an ego?
Ego, in a sense, yes, is fundamentally neutral, because it's simply the device, the framework, shall we say, that you impose upon your greater consciousness in order to have what you call a physical experience. So in that sense, yes, animals have ego in the neutral sense that allows them to have a physical experience, that focuses them down, like it does for you, into something a little bit more contained, a little bit more narrow, so you can have the physical experience. Negative ego is simply when the ego is given more than it is designed to handle, and it starts, shall we say, rebelling against that, because it's not designed to be in control, to be in charge, to decide what's true for you. Your greater self is, your collective personality in alignment with your higher self, is that which is designed to decide for yourself, to choose for yourself what is really representative of your fundamental frequency. But the ego is just designed to give you clarity in the experience that you decide to have. That's all it is doing. And the positive side of that is that when the ego is simply allowed to do the job it was designed to do, it aligns more readily with your higher mind, it is experienced in a more positive way, and it almost seems to kind of disappear, other than realizing you have an identity as yourself in physical reality. So the positive side of the ego is that it becomes very transparent, almost like it's not there. The negative side is that it constantly calls your attention to it, because it thinks it has been given the task of deciding what is correct for you, or deciding what you should do or where you should go, and that's not what it's designed to do. It is simply designed to keep you focused in physical reality, and that's the neutral part of it.
What's your favorite animal?
I do not have a favorite. There are some that are more relevant to my life than others, but I do not, in that sense, discriminate from one to the other. Whatever is my favorite is whatever I'm interacting with at that moment, because that's the one that needs to be in my life at that moment. There must be a reason for it, therefore that's my favorite. At that moment, because it's there.
Do the animals look similar to the animals here, or
some do,
different,
and some look completely different.
Think
they are all on our planet symbiotic. We have no predators. You know why there are predators on your planet? Because you are.